league is not going to downgrade Draymond Green's flagrant 2 from game 1 that triggered an ejection. Again, that is important because you keep adding up the flagrant points and it could lead to a suspension. After that announcement, Draymond had this to say about his style of play.
I'm never going to change the way I play basketball. It's gotten me this far. It's gotten me 3 championships, 4 All-Stars, Defensive Player of the Year. Not going to change now. I told y'all on my podcast, my reputation is a badge of honor. Not everybody can earn that reputation. So life goes on.
Okay, so, I mean, that's one way to look at it. I saw you and Draymond had a little nice exchange there. The two of you were making friends on Twitter yesterday because you were on his side and he responded that he agrees with you. You see that, the tweet from Legler and Draymond saying foul reputations are honored, defensive ones not so much. At the end of the day, this feels important. When you hear a player like him, well, Wendy, let me start with you. I get it. I mean, I understand. His style of play is the reason that he went from a guy at Michigan State who I don't think anyone projected having a great career to a guy who's going to wind up in the Hall of Fame. That part of it I totally understand. But when you hear him say, I'm just not going to change the way I play, kind of no matter what it costs us, what do you think?
Well, he's antagonizing the league and the officials, which he has done for years now. And so you must point out he has 2 flagrant foul points. If he gets 4, he gets suspended. So I would say to Draymond, don't change your style of play, but watch where those feet go because those can be retroactively added. And so many people, especially Warriors fans, believe that Draymond was suspended because he hit LeBron in the groin in Game 4 back in 2016. That is not true. He was suspended because he body slammed Michael Beasley at the end of a meaningless game in the first round. It was a accumulation of those flagrant foul points. So I know that it's, maybe a little early to think about that, but there are now 2 points. Keep an eye on that going forward. Absolutely. And look, it just has to be said out loud. His playing the way he plays, A, made him the player he is, B, cost his team a championship. I mean, it's an unquestionable fact that up 3-1 in that series with Draymond Green, the Warriors are going to win the title. They're going to have won 73 games. They're going to be the greatest team of all time. So if that wasn't going to influence the way he goes about things, I suppose nothing is going to, right?
And I think what he was talking about was the intensity with which he plays. But, I mean, the one way that he has to adjust at this point, because you're talking about 2 more, even ones, right? You're suspended. When he's late, when he's out of position on a rotation and guys are attacking the rim, you've got to be more selective about how hard a foul you're going to take in that situation. If your body's there in time, you're going to take those charges. You're going to hit people. But when you're in that play right there, he slid over. He got there late. Brandon Clark's already leaving the ground. Those are the ones that he has got to be more judicious about going forward.
So, J.B. Bickerstaff, again, you grew up in the NBA. You grew up in a league where that would have been basically nothing. But no one knows better than you do how the game is officiated today. Did you think that was worthy of the flagrant 2, the grabbing of the jersey, everything else that we saw? Just as an impartial observer, did you think that warranted an ejection?
I got to be real careful how I approach this one because of my history with the officiating crews. But again, I grew up watching legs play, right? So I know how physical those games were. To me, that's a foul we play on.
Yeah. I think a lot of us felt that way, and to some degree it is a reputation call, and to some degree your reputation does precede you. I mean, I think all those things can be right at the same time.
Hey, the number one thing, the more I watch this replay, that indicates to me that it should have been a 1 for the jersey grab. Not one player on Memphis overreacted on the court to what happened. Think about that. If a guy typically is the recipient of a flagrant 2 by a player in a game, you're going to have 4 teammates running over there, and somebody is going to be jawing face-to-face with Draymond Green. Nobody did because no one interpreted it that way. There's not one player on Memphis' team or their coaching staff that would have had a problem with a flagrant 1. Nobody. I mean, and it seems like it's pretty divided out there in the court of public opinion what people think about this. Maybe even more people think it should have been a flagrant 2. I just don't see it that way.
Let me ask Marcus. I'm really interested to hear. No one knows the NBA better than Marcus Spears does, and obviously the style of play thing. I'm always interested in football players' perspectives, but when you hear a guy like Draymond, after this happens, say, specifically what he just said there, I'm not going to change the way I play. What do you think of it all, Swagoo?
Yeah, listen, Draymond can't change. Draymond is a career 8, 6, and 5. guy. 8 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists a game. Like Draymond Green has made, to your point, G, when you came on talking about he'll be a Hall of Famer because of this style of play. Now, this is different. Listening to Wendy and Coach Biggerstaff and Legs talk about it, this is about emotion now for Draymond Green. You have no room to let your emotions get the best of you. And I haven't watched a playoff series or a playoff run by the Golden State where Draymond Green didn't let his emotions get the best of him at times throughout the duration of a game. Now, unfortunately, 2 more of those, 2 more unintentional or intentional overreactions or doing too much could cost you to be suspended. And to your point, referencing when they lost, when they were up 3-1, when Draymond had to sit out. But ultimately, like, him not changing his style of play is about Draymond Green and the way he plays basketball. And he is absolutely right. He can't change that. He just got to watch those moments that we've seen in past playoff history of his emotions getting the best of him and it not becoming an issue where he has to be suspended.
Remember, they're sitting right now a series away from a date with Phoenix. That'll be the first one they're not expected to win. They will need all hands on deck if they're going to do it. Swagu, thanks for jumping in. Wendy, thank you for getting up. As always, pleasure to have my basketball guys here. We'll have more of it as we go. Meanwhile,
it's one game, but things can turn fast. So, you know, the sooner we can correct the things that we can control, the better off we'll be. Obviously, we're missing Joe, but, you know, it's out of our control, and we got to go out there and man up and be great. And I know we will do because we've been resilient, you know, so far.
Well, look, some things are excuses and other things are reasons. Not having Embiid on the floor is a reason why you lose. Look at the difference when he's on the floor with James Harden versus when he is not. Their offensive rating just falls basically off the table. What they are on the bottom there, to give you a sense of how significant that is, they fall down like into the bottom 5 of the league. That's somewhere where Portland and the Pistons were living. And so, again, I want to start with J.B. Bickerstaff here because you coached James in Houston when he was at his absolute apex. And I think a lot of people wonder, does he still just have the physical ability after all the years and all the usage and everything else just to flat out beat his man? You saw Tim did a really nice job of demonstrating what they're doing to him defensively in our first hour today. Does he still have the ability just to beat his man and get that offense started?
Yeah, I think he does. You know, I don't think we've seen the last of the best of James Harden. What I think we need to do is see a lot more of him earlier. I think what's happening now is he's playing a lot in the half court. There's 10 eyes that are staring on him and shrinking the floor and not necessarily giving him an opportunity to attack early.
Which means what? How do you get him? They need to get in transition a little bit more because he's kind of walking it up the floor.
Yeah, they need to get in transition more and set more screens in the backcourt. And I'm going to say something that goes against everything I believe in.
Okay.
They need to play smaller. Spread the floor out more. Find all their shooters. Put all their shooters on the floor. They're athletes. Let them get up and down. Create space for them.
Who are those guys in Philly, Timmy? You know that team better than anybody. How do they go small?
It's tough because the guys they're going to be counting on are very inconsistent right now with what they're going to provide. I mean, Niang is a guy that can get hot and string them together. He couldn't buy one last night. Danny Green is a guy that really helped them in a closeout game in Toronto. Did not play very well last night. Korkmaz is a guy that really has been shelved here for a while. So you're dusting him off, and they did it last night to get him out there. So I just think their depth is an issue. It was an issue coming into the playoffs, even with Joel Embiid. Their depth's an issue. But when you have Joel Embiid, it makes up for a lot of that.
Part of the reason, Brian Windhorst, that their depth is an issue is because they traded a lot of it to get James Harden. And that really does sort of feel like it is becoming increasingly the storyline in Philadelphia right now. They have hitched their cart to that. Whatever it is you hitch to something else, I never get that expression right. But whatever it is, they are James Harden's team now going forward, right, for better or for worse. And right now that looks a little questionable.
Yeah, you know, I think what JB said is right. This is what people think that they should do is go small. Stop playing DeAndre Jordan or their collection of centers. The issue is they don't really have a good small lineup to use. And you mentioned earlier, James Harden, 5 of 13 in this game. That is now an average game for him.